to go into details, please read our explainer on our web page. There you will know all the details why this case is significant and what you need to know. That's a bit of a complex story. But to elaborate more in our studio and explain also the political impact of that, we have Daria Kalenyuk, who is an executive director of the Independent Anti-Corruption Action Center. Dasha, thanks a lot for coming. Just really explain our audience, why this case is significant. It is third. We can speak about the third of this level official. We could say from the current political elite, not the former political elite. So what we need to know about that?
Well, we might need to know political side of the case and legal side of the case. I will probably start with the political. So who is Martynenko and why it's a very significant story to have Martynenko suspect in corruption? Martynenko used to be the head of the Energy Committee in Parliament. He was head of this committee for ages, even before Poroshenko, when Yanukovych was in power. And Martynenko now remains to be, according to different sources, a key sponsor of Narodniy Front party. This is the second largest faction in Ukrainian parliament, which is headed by Arseniy Yatsenyuk, the former prime minister of Ukraine. So Martynenko is a very influential politician. While he is now not a member of parliament, he still has a lot of political influence. And his business, of course, is very linked to his political influence. What is the business of Martynenko? The business of Martynenko is simply control our Ukrainian state-owned companies. One of such companies is Energatom, and this is a Ukrainian monopoly, which is state-owned and which is managing all Ukrainian nuclear power plants. We have such kind of 4 huge power plants. And Martynenko lobbied for a manager for this state-owned company who is under his influence and control. And having his own manager, he can influence how the money on Energatom are being spent. And usually such how money are being embezzled through state-owned company. State-owned company purchases, for example, some equipment. This is very unique equipment for nuclear power plants. For every citizen, you would not understand what is the market price for such kind of equipment. But at the end, the state company would purchase the equipment for much higher price than the real market price. And the difference of the price is remaining in the hands of Martynenko through a set of offshore companies. And this is what happened in investigation where NABU brought suspicion against Martynenko. It's a similar case, not with Energatom, but also a state-owned company, which is related to the energy, which has to produce uranium. Uranium is the source, as I understand, to feed nuclear power plants. And this is the part of Ukrainian energy security strategy from Russia, to produce and extract its own uranium.
And Dasha, we have this very sophisticated scheme of funds embezzlement of the
it looks
companies. Yeah, it looks sophisticated, and you can follow it on Twitter if you really want to go in the details. National Anti-Corruption Bureau had produced it. So really, what is the legal side of the story?
Yeah, and I actually transferred from political to legal side. The legal side is that in the state-owned company, which has to produce uranium and sell it to Ukrainian Energatom and feed nuclear power plants, the state-owned company didn't extract and didn't produce uranium, but instead of that, bought it from shell companies. And in this episode, which was investigated by NABU and brought into court, we see that uranium was bought from Austrian shell company, which was managed from Kyiv, whose beneficial owner is Martynenko himself, and which in turn purchased this uranium from Kazakh company. And the price changed into tens of millions of dollars from the moment when Austrian company bought this uranium from Kazakhstan and then sold it to Ukrainian state-owned mining company. So, and detectives found proof which shows that the difference of this price, which was laundered through a set of shell companies, including in Great Britain, in Panama, and in Austria, ended up in the hands of the family of Martynenko, and the family of Martynenko spent it there abroad. So the case is very interesting because it indicates that, yes, Ukraine is a very corrupt country. Billions and probably millions of hryvnias are being embezzled from the state, but then this money are being laundered through the Western Europe and using a range of shell companies, intermediaries, and Western lawyers.
What was I would say, the public disappointment when the number of the ministers, of the Ukrainian ministers from Narodniy Front Party, including those who are considered to be reformist, like the Minister for Infrastructure, Milan, or like somebody who are the Minister of Education, have come to support Martynenko and were really accusing the the Anti-Corruption Bureau to be biased, to be politically biased. What is there? How do you see that?
Well, it simply indicates once again how powerful is still Martynenko. While he is not member of the parliament, he influences ministers who became ministers because of the quota of Narodniy Front, and he influences a lot of members of the parliament who are representing Narodniy Front. What we witnessed in the court is pure political pressure on the court. When members of the parliament come and say that NABU controls the judge, is something that shouldn't happen in the democracy. Yes, actually, I myself don't trust to the Judge Bobrovnik, but it's not how member of the parliament should behave in the court. Coming and threatening judge that, listen, if you will decide and agree with NABU request to arrest him or to issue a big bail for him, we will do something with you. This is something that shouldn't happen if you want fair justice.
The independence of NABU, Anti-Corruption Bureau, is exactly what I would like to ask after we listen to the quote of Nazar Holodnytsky, who is the head of the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor Office.
Фактично, державне підприємство, яке не мало права оголошувати конкурс на придбання урану, його провело, виграла фірма австрійська, яка фактично цей уран не видобувала. І гроші після перерахування з державного підприємства «Схід ГЗК» були перераховані на австрійську фірму, яка фактично бенефіціаром якої є наші підозрювані. Тому слідство встановило, доведено експертизою, те, що сума збитків задана державному підприємству, отже державі, становить більше $17 мільйонів.
So, you know, if a foreigner look at Ukraine who doesn't follow closely, you think like, okay, another fight among new institutions. So really, and to build an independence, you know, we have now a number of the institutions who are supposed to fight corruption in this country. Some of them are, you know, related to the government, some are independent, so it's really sometimes difficult to understand. So you as an anti-corruption activist who are, you know, working for an NGO, you know, with no ties to any of the state bodies, what you would say? To what extent our institutions like NABU, Anti-Corruption Bureau, are really independent, and particularly how this case, what it can prove?
This case proves that the new law enforcement agency, which was built up from scratch, whose director was selected through independent, transparent, competitive procedure, whose detectives were selected through the same very competitive procedure, whose detectives undergo everyone through the polygraph test, is ready to touch untouchable people in Ukraine. Because Martynenko is an untouchable person, like Nasirov, another case which we witnessed, right? And we see that NABU is getting mature. Yes, they spent first year on building up the agency from scratch and building up institution, hiring new people. Then the second year they spent on looking for the evidence and building up these cases. And now is the third year when they are giving the results. NABU can't convict alone the person. They can't confiscate alone assets. They need support of anti-corruption prosecutors, and we see now prosecutors who are eager to cooperate with NABU, but still we have unreformed courts.
So it's exactly where we're going. I would like to show that we show the graph showing the other personalities. We have Onyshchenko, also the former MP from the Party of Region, who is currently out of the country. He had been accused of being involved in an organized crime which cost the government 3 million hryvnias. It's a bit more than $100,000. He fled Ukraine. As well, we have the case of the Roman Nasirov, who is the state fiscal service chief. And we also can see the numbers. But really, it happened that though there are charges, Nasirov is more or less, he had been bailed, and as well today Martynenko is also bailed. And really there are always concerned that if these people are bailed, they can leave the country or somehow they can avoid the just full court.
Absolutely. Even if Martynenko says that he will not leave the country, the bail doesn't prevent him from influencing witnesses. And as he still has very big political influence, he can destroy a case and he can, pressure witnesses who are providing evidence and who are building up the case for NABU. Therefore, it was very strategically important to arrest Martynenko, at least for these 2 months, for which NABU has a time frame to finish the case and present it into the court. And I'm very much disappointed with such a decision of the court. But again, it's not NABU or specialized anti-corruption prosecution fault. It is 15 people who are ministers and members of the parliament, jointly with attorneys of Martynenko, who are coming into the court and who are pressuring the judge and harassing him, who are also harassing NABU and specialized anti-corruption prosecution. And at the end, the judge makes up the decision which can harm the case. So this case gives one more argument and one more reason why in Ukraine we need setup of anti-corruption court, where there will be first judges selected through the very similar transparent and competitive procedure as the procedure of NABU director was, and where we will have additional guarantees of independence of such judges, where we can prevent and somehow protect judges from harassment and from possible political interference and influence. And Ukraine committed to set up such an anti-corruption court. There is already draft law in the parliament, and I expect that Ukrainian parliament will move forward with considering this draft law. And by the way, this is the requirement of the IMF.